So today's video is about a topic which gets me quite angry and emotional actually. So when we are having babies, and so this video is probably more for women, but also if you've got a partner, a female partner who is in the process of having kids, you may want to share this with her. But when we are at some stage in that process, whether it's being pregnant or whether it is having our second child, and we're in the workplace, we are quite vulnerable and exposed for various reasons. Now, if you add to the mix an environment, a work environment, perhaps it's a slightly smaller organization, they don't have quite the structures and the HR structures in place that you might have in larger organizations, you can be really vulnerable if you have a terrible boss. And by a terrible boss, I mean either somebody who doesn't understand women in the workplace, might be a bully, might be a micromanager, and might be trying to place on you some thoughts about their own, views on what it is to be a working mother or a pregnant lady in the workplace. Now, again, I have to do a disclaimer here because there are policies. I am not an HR specialist. I am not a lawyer, but this stuff makes its way into my coaching sessions. And I know that it can be very useful to have insights into how to manage what can be a really, really difficult time. Despite the fact that we are in the 2020s, there are individuals and workplaces which haven't really caught up with the times. So let me give you 3 strategies and actions to help if you find yourself in a kind of murky area. You are not going to go running to HR and be screaming for, whatever it is. You're not going to be making claims here, but you do want to manage what isn't the best situation. And, I often have incredibly hardworking, talented women who have found themselves in not nice situations where assumptions are made about them just because they're having kids. My assumption, if you're watching this video, is that you're incredibly career oriented and you just need to navigate the process of having kids, and you want to make it work in a way that is great for your family life but also great for your career. So the first thing is a very practical piece. If you start to notice comments or communications that make you feel uncomfortable and that are in any way implying things about your attitude or approach because you're either about to go off on maternity leave or you're just returning from maternity leave, if you start to notice things like that, keep a log, and it will first of all get those horrible thoughts out of your own head. It will give you something to do with them, and by keeping that structured file with dates, you are building your evidence if you ever need it. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not somebody that wants to go down those routes if at all I can avoid it, because I'm forward looking and I want to focus on my next milestones in my career. I don't want to be embroiled in kind of dispute type situations. However, it will give you a great sense of satisfaction, and if it's ever required, you're in a really good position if you kept detailed notes. And by detailed notes, I just mean a date, and I just mean some quotes, and I just mean how that made you feel. So keep that file, and that is also something which you can then objectively get another person's eye on it to make sure that, they would also, agree that that's unacceptable. That's step number 1. That's just a practical thing, and the whole point of these videos is about how we keep advancing, even when we are about to perhaps go off for maternity leave. You might be going off for a particularly long maternity leave. For my first kid, I took what ended up being, with all the holiday, 14 or 15 months, but I still did it in a way which I believe was great for my family life, but also moved my career forward. So I think that is entirely possible. I think it's possible to have a power maternity leave, but that's a separate video. Step 2 is now, how do you increase your power in this situation? Because there is a power dynamic here, and it's currently potentially not working in your favor. You have a line manager who may have access to higher levels within the organization. They may be blocking you in various ways and making you feel trapped. and like you've got nowhere to turn. And unfortunately, HR sometimes is in the pockets of the top levels of management, so you don't really feel like they are an objective and independent source. And I'm just saying that because unfortunately I've heard it from a lot of clients. So we want to try and redress the power balance here. That's not something that's going to happen overnight, but in organizations, one clear correlation with power is your relationships in that organization. So what I ask my clients to do is map out who are some key relationships and key sponsors, including those who your boss would consider to be key sponsors and relationships for them, and who are the ones where you can just go and strengthen your relationship without complaining, without having to get into any detail, but just start building those relationships, reminding everybody how dedicated you are to your work. And if you need to spell it out, to even say, just to be very clear, I'm going on maternity leave, doesn't change my attitude, and I'm still incredibly dedicated to this work and to this organisation. Doesn't harm to spell it out. And often when I've said that to clients, they've said, oh yeah, hadn't thought of that. And sometimes it's about saying those things which we think people will just understand because we're working so hard. Sadly, in a virtual environment, some of those signals are just going to be lost, and you just need to spell them out. So think through your stakeholder map. Think through who are those people that you can increase your relationship with and increase your lines, I guess, your lifelines beyond your line manager relationship. In organisation, relationships are power, and it's really important that you are continuously investing in those as well as doing your job. Often the women I'm coaching in these situations have prioritized the job and the task and delivery over everything, and they're hoping that others will recognize that for them. But the sad reality is nobody will, and so actually they need to be doing more on a daily basis to invest in the relationships, sharing the work that they're doing, and making sure people have it spelled out to them what their attitude is to their work. The third tip that I have in these tricky situations, so we've increased your power inside the organisation. Now we want to think about how you can increase your power outside your organisation. Often the reason why this is such an awful time and position to be in is because we've invested so much in these jobs, we really care about them, and we feel like all of our work over the last few years is now at stake, especially if we've got, and then we're about to go off and be absent, or we're just returning. It's as if our previous reputation almost counts for nothing. And one thing I've noticed here is that the more dedicated the individual has been to their own organisation, the worse and the more stressful this feels. So this is the point when I say we have to increase your external influence and power as well. Yes, you're committed to this organisation. Yes, you want to stay, but actually, if there is a really unhealthy dynamic here and there is not enough support to address that within inside the organisation, you just want to feel like you can walk away from the situation. I know that's not easy when you're having kids and you just want some stability. And so I'm not saying that you even have to use that option if you have it. But looking up, taking the blinkers off, and actually having a look at the market beyond your organisation is not a bad thing. I hope that if you are in one of these tricky situations, this video has been of some help, or if you know somebody for whom this could be a useful insight, that you share it, and do let me know if it was helpful to you. Thank you so much, and I will join you next week with a new video.